Batman, help me. The Joker, he's taken me.
What? That's like the 5th person this month.
Yeah, and he's holding me hostage until you come over and make a video talking about history for my YouTube channel.
What?
He's going to kill me.
Fine, I'll be there in like 15 minutes. Where's the Joker?
He's on vacation.
Wait, so you're free?
If you don't do it, he'll come back and kill me.
Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense.
And action!
Oh, what am I supposed to say?
There's a teleprompter.
Oh.
History Review. Greetings, everybody.
It's me, Batman. And I am so proud to be hosting this episode of History Review. Today we are talking about the Reconstruction. The Reconstruction was a crucial time in America that happened right after the Civil War. The Union had just conquered the states in the Confederacy, and they needed a way to bring them back into the Union. The problem is, the Constitution never said anything about how to do this with territory obtained through infighting. It only talked about war and rebellion. If the Civil War was counted as a war, the Constitution gives Congress the power to control over the territory. If the Civil War was a rebellion, the executive branch gets control. Lincoln, being part of the executive branch, wanted the Civil War to be counted as a rebellion.
I can't keep doing that. Oh, God. Lincoln's Reconstruction. At the start of the Civil War, the states in the Confederacy seceded from the Union, but Lincoln believed that secession was illegal, so he intended everything to return to the way things were before. His plan was the 10% plan. It said that the southern states had to, firstly, say secession doesn't exist, secondly, abolish slavery, and third, 10% of the white men in the state must swear an oath of loyalty to the Union. Lincoln called this the tangible nucleus because they were like the core of Americans who would support the country. What I really want to see, though, is the tangible mitochondria.
Do I really have to say that?
This was Lincoln's plan, but Congress thought it was loser Dumbo garbage. So they made the Wade Davis bill, which was Lincoln's plan, except at least 51% of white Southerners must accept the Union. But Lincoln was like, no, your plan is garbage, so I'm a pocket veto it. And Lincoln was very tired from all this arguing, so he went to go relax by watching a play. Lincoln is gone. Wait, there's more? It's getting hot in here. Do you have any water?
Where's the water? Oh, where's the water?
Johnson's Reconstruction. John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, and his vice president, Andrew Johnson, became president. Johnson had the reputation of hating the South, since Congress was only northern states at the time, they were hoping he would really hammer down. And at first he did, passing his Reconstruction plan, which was Lincoln's plans plus some extra spicy DLC. First, states accepted back into the Union had to invalidate secession in their state constitutions. 2, they repudiated the Confederate debt, and so it was never paid back to investors. 3, they would ratify the 13th Amendment. And 4, Johnson made a list of people who couldn't hold office, including people who were part of the former Confederate government, and people who have at least $20,000 of taxable income, such as the rich Southern planters. The Southerners didn't like that, though, and they elected a bunch of ex-Confederates anyways. Now, what Johnson did next was a lizard brain moment. You see, Johnson was very egotistical, and when the Southern states ignored him, he desperately tried to grasp onto something that would make him feel like he was in control. So he was like, you're gonna act like you're innocent? You know what? I pardoned you first. Lizard brain, no prefrontal cortex, just medulla. So, on a fateful Congress session in December 1865, Johnson burst into the room. Guys, I did it. I finished Reconstruction. Look at this. Then he opens the door and a bunch of Southern government officials stride in, and they're all wearing Confederate uniforms. Uh-oh. Now, Congress has trust issues, so they formed a joint committee on Reconstruction. This committee went into the South to see if Andrew Johnson really did finish Reconstruction, and guess what? He didn't. They witnessed overwhelming anti-North sentiment and oppressive black codes and chain gangs that created a sort of pseudo-slavery. Meanwhile, the Freedmen's Bureau exists to help African Americans adjust out of slavery, and the bill which forms it needs to be renewed, but Johnson vetoes it. So Congress, now fed up with Johnson, overrides his veto. Then Congress tries to pass the Civil Rights Bill, which gave every person rights, and Johnson vetoes it. So they pull a pro-gamer move and rewrite it as the 14th Amendment. They could easily pass it this time because there were no Southern states in the Union, so they couldn't vote against it. Election of 1866. It's midterm election year, and the issue on the table is Johnson's Reconstruction. And Johnson needs enough congressmen to be elected so he can hold his veto. So he goes on a train, and at each stop he gives the same exact speech. Then he hands out a copy of the American flag and a copy of the Constitution. But telegraphs were a thing, and news that he was giving the same speech at every stop spread quickly, and crowds began to heckle him. Johnson began to go crazy. He started accusing House and Senate leaders for being traitors, getting into fights with crowds, and even comparing himself to Jesus. Johnson failed, and the opposite of what he wanted to happen happened. Republicans won by a landslide, and now Congress could control Reconstruction. Congressional Reconstruction. Congress was a bunch of northern and radical border states, and they were going to control Reconstruction. One vision, one story, one love. First thing they wanted to do was impeach Johnson for being a complete quesadilla. This was the first impeachment. Wow! But they did not have a good reason, so they made a law called the Tenure of Office Act, which prevented the president from firing members of his cabinet without congressional approval. Johnson was like, "Oh, are you challenging me?" And like a reasonable person, he fired the guy just to see. He was promptly impeached by the House and then tried by the Senate. He survived by literally one vote. Congress still had control of Reconstruction, so they passed the first Reconstruction Act of 1867, which divided the unreconstructed South, 10 states, into 5 military districts, which ran under martial law. This was the state of affairs until each state did the following. First, ratify the 13th Amendment. Second, ratify the 14th Amendment. And third, all of this happens in state constitutional conventions monitored by the military. And fourth, no white Confederate government officials could hold office or even vote. And so the South finally began to become reconstructed. Conclusion. That's just the beginning of Reconstruction. But what happens next? If you want to see a video about that, then smash that like button. If you want to see a different history be reviewed instead, also smash that like button. But most importantly, subscribe to our Read the Bird for more epic content.
That is definitely in the running to being one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life. What?
Joke's on you! It was me, the Joker, the entire time.
The city is safe.